Welcome back to another episode of The Great Outdoors with Doug. I'm Adam. This is Doug. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Living the dream, baby.
Good.
It's always something I'm looking forward to this week, every week, really, having our little chats. But, geez, we got to jump off with a hot topic here. Tough little incident, to say the very least, in Minnesota, where one of the things we talk about is safety, and talking about duck hunting safety. Let's talk about it.
Let's do that, because you're absolutely right. Is you can have the greatest hunt plan, the greatest outing, and if it ends up with a 911 call, a trip to the emergency room, then that's what everybody's going to remember. So there's a reason why we preach. I mean, we preach the safety aspect of it, because you can go out there and miss every single duck, not catch a fish, and as long as everybody gets home safe and sound, there's a little bit of a success because you're outdoors. It's like you go to the football game, your team loses. Well, hey, we went to the game.
Nobody still had fun.
Right. We don't want to lose. We don't want to lose, but we still want to be in the game.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the connection, is that when you're going outdoors, we cannot preach safety enough. And the problem that we run into is there's kind of a mindset of it's relaxing, it's enjoyable, you're getting away from work, you're getting outdoors, you're going with your kids, with your wife, or brothers, uncles. And sometimes people get that, well, it ain't going to happen to us. We've been hunting this way all our life, and it's never happened, so it ain't going to happen to us. And it does happen. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, well, today we're going to go out hunting and we're going to end up at the ER. I mean, you don't think that. What you have to do is go with the mindset of, we're going to put safety at the top of the list, and we're going to make sure that we check all the boxes. When it comes to duck hunting and safety in and on the water, some of the same reminders apply to the summertime as to the fall. And people think we're going duck hunting, it's a small slough, it's not very deep, we don't need a life jacket. What you don't realize is you're wearing waders, and it's heavy. The water is, as warm as the temperatures are, the water is still extremely cold already, because it's cooling off at night. When it gets to be 75, 80 degrees, it's just for a little while during the daytime. So you can have hypothermia set in, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and unfortunately, whether it's Minnesota, South Dakota, or North Dakota, these duck hunting accidents happen. And what we want to do is try to prevent it from happening. They make what's called a float coat. And I'll probably wear one of these times, but it's basically like your hunting jacket, but it's made out of floatable material. So basically, it's like a life jacket that you're wearing while you're hunting. It's camouflage, and it's expensive, but you're spending a lot of money on shotguns and shells and duck boats. Spend the money on a float coat for yourself, for everybody else, because that's something that you'll wear. And the other thing is, when you're using a duck boat, is you're putting a lot of gear in there. You got decoys and shotguns and shells and people. Make sure that you're spreading the weight out evenly. Duck boats are small. They're not these big, huge boats that you're going to see on Detroit Lake or any place else. They're a lot smaller, and they don't sit as well in the water. So they're more susceptible to the wind and to shifting weight. So you got a lot of factors that come into play that can make duck hunting on the water, it can make it a little different game than your regular type of hunting. So we don't want that to happen ever. And what you can do as hunters is really just kind of be intentional about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. There's no reason why we can't try to reduce those situations from happening.
And it just seems like, first of all, I really appreciate the reminder, because that's super important. But it seems like just easy rules to follow too. It's one of those things that it's like having car insurance.
Yeah.
Hopefully you never need it.
Right.
But you want to have it.
And we would like, on that same note, we would like people to get into the same mindset. Most people jump in their car and put their seatbelt on.
Yeah.
There's still some people that don't, and we hear about it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
They're involved in crashes that turn into hospitals, ERs, and sometimes into funerals, and that's the same thing that can happen with hunting. If you can just decide that we're going to be on the water, whether it's fishing, boating, duck hunting, we're going to have a float coat on. And you look at some of these duck sloughs and you're like, wow, it's just kind of small and it's kind of shallow. And right, we get that. But again, all it takes is to get in. I mean, people drowned in shallow water.
Right.
And you just don't want that to be. So I'm not trying to tell people to stay home, hide in the basement, nothing bad's going to happen. But when you are going out, please put the safety on the priority list where it should be.
Absolutely. Well, going from that, how is duck hunting season going so far?
It's going okay, and part of the reason is just this beautiful weather that we've had. This isn't duck hunting weather. The duck hunters want to have colder, windier, maybe some drizzle, maybe some rain. We haven't had cold temperatures in Canada to move the ducks out. There's still ducks around, but what it tells us is the best is yet to come. Your team starts off, 2-2, 1-3. Well, you're going to say let's hope that October is better than what September was. And that's kind of the way it is with the duck and the goose hunting right now. It's been okay, but we're looking for that strong push into October to maybe gain some ground. And,
Week 5, ducks are hopefully getting back in the win column.
Yeah, absolutely. Week 5, and that's all you can do. You can't win week 6.
Yeah.
In week 5.
Yeah, it's one.
You got to worry about this weekend.
And you want to be able to come into mid-season form.
Yeah, and that does come back from the effort that you put into it. So we talk about these sports parallels. Well, if you put in the scouting on Thursday and Friday, if you get up to Devil's Lake, you get out to Jamestown, to Harvey, and you put in some scouting, there's birds around. And that's going to go a long ways versus waiting until Friday night going, well, Daryl, let's go hunting tomorrow. And then you're going, well, where are we going? I don't know, Grant.
I don't know.
Where are we going? So that's kind of the mindset. It's a lot of things in life. If you wait till Friday night before game time, unfortunately, you might find yourself on the opposite end of the scoreboard. But if you start that preparation early on in the week and get ready for it, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say this weekend should act. It sounds like things might be a little bit windier on Saturday. Might not be great for outdoor football, but could be better for some hunting this weekend.
And the Vikings, they play at like 8:30 a.m. because they're in London. So watch the Vikings. Now you really don't have an excuse. You can be out duck hunting by noon,
right,
and still catch the Vikings.
You can.
That's a rare opportunity, folks. You got to take advantage.
And if you need the help from the good Lord, get yourself to church.
Yeah.
Then get out and do some hunting, and then
triple crown.
Yeah. So by 12 noon. You can have church, Vikings, and ducks all in the bag, and then you can kick back on Sunday afternoon, and you're set.
Yeah, living the dream.
Who's playing Sunday night? That's what you got to always ask yourself.
Yeah, and I don't remember.
Yeah, so it's not the Bears.
It's not the Bears.
There you
They're
go.
playing at noon. Anyway, speaking about bears, moose. That's not a bear, but that's a very cool animal as well. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but there was a moose sighted just recently in West Fargo, and You see a moose, and it's easy to be like, wow, that thing's incredible, but it's also just very stupid to go up to those things. They are majestic to watch, and look at, but it's like buffalo. They say, don't pet the fuzzy cow.
Yeah. That's a good comparison, is because you hear of people, whether they're at Yellowstone or at Medora, and they see buffalo, like, oh, let's go get a picture of it.
Yeah,
and
the buffalo's not gonna just like come in for a selfie with you.
No,
you're gonna be in the ER.
Right, and so we had a moose on the outskirts of West Fargo about 10 days ago on a Friday night, and it actually was around West Fargo for about 3 days, from Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday. And the best advice that we can give people is same in the rural areas. When you see a buffalo or a moose, you don't go running up to it to try to take a picture of it. You don't say, hey, honey, stop the car. The best advice we can give is give it some space. Okay, look at how big these creatures are. And the one that was in West Fargo was a smaller bull moose, but these things are absolutely huge. And the size and the power, and when they get into an urban area and they get disoriented, I mean, they want to spend the weekend in West Fargo about as much as you want to spend the weekend out in the woods. Just out there with nothing else. So when people post these pictures and videos on social media, then other people come to try to take pictures and to take videos, and that stands the risk of scaring the moose, agitating the moose, and the next thing you know, that moose is running through town, and you've got a bad ending for, could be people, could be cars, could be fences and patios, and then the moose themselves. We've had situations where the moose have had to be euthanized in urban areas because people would not leave them alone. So It's the same, moose are obviously a little bit different than having deer in town,
Sure.
deer quite frequently, but we say the same thing about deer and turkeys and geese and moose, is just give them some space, let them be. They really would much rather, kind of like that old TV show Northern Exposure. They just like to kind of maybe wander on through, leave them alone, and hopefully we can have a safe ending. That's what we had this time, but there's no guarantee. And while we speak right now, there's no guarantee. Just because we had one 10 days ago doesn't mean we're not going to have one tonight or tomorrow. I like to actually think that just because we don't see, kind of like the boogeyman, just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. There could be moose wandering through Fargo, Moorhead, Grand Forks, Wahpeton more often than we know about. And as long as people just refrain from, oh, I got to get a video of that, I got to post it on social media. Do like when celebrities, when Josh Duhamel comes to Fargo, he's not posting pictures while he's at the Fargo Theater.
Yep.
Like they'll take a picture. 3 days later, they might post a picture and say, oh, look who is in downtown Fargo. And if you feel the need to share media of moose in town, wait 3 or 4 days.
I like that.
And just
That's
let
a
it
good
be.
tip.
Just let it be. Well,
Yeah.
and it's when Carson Wentz comes back to North Dakota, he's not posting, this is where I'm going to be set up duck hunting.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to show up there.
Hey, I'll be at JL Beers at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Now, again, I understand if there's a paid promotion, they'll do
Right,
things like that.
right.
But for the most part, they want to try to kind of stay under the radar, and that's kind of what the moose wants to be. Just wants to be just one of the guys.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's also just so important. It's not just considering your safety, but I like what you're saying about you don't want it to get euthanized. You got to keep the moose safe too. You got to have the respect for these animals, especially when it's a situation. You're not hunting.
No.
This moose is lost,
Yeah.
just like you would be if you're in the woods. And now, let's say someone does see a moose wandering West Fargo. Who can they contact?
Right, and that's a good point to bring up, is you don't have to contact somebody if you feel like there's a threat, because we don't want people running into the moose. So the response on this was West Fargo Police Department showed up and made sure that people weren't getting too close to the moose, and making sure that vehicles would know, because same thing, whether you're out on I-94 or on Main Avenue in West Fargo, you don't want a vehicle hitting it.
Right.
So you make sure that traffic is aware of it. And if you're a citizen, as your question asked, what should you do? If it's not causing any problems, nothing. And if it is, that's when you need to call your local authorities, whether it's the police department, the sheriff's department. They get a hold of Game and Fish, and we can kind of offer some wildlife advice as to what to do and what not to do. One other thing is, unfortunately, people have got this this kind of movie mindset of, oh, well then all you do is you just go shoot it with a dart and then just go haul it back out into the country, and it doesn't work that way. When they have that adrenaline running through them, and to go find a veterinarian and to get the right amount of tranquilization drugs and all that stuff, it doesn't work like it. There's a lot of things that are in the movies because they're not real.
Right.
And that is also part of the just get a tranquilizer gun and shoot it and just load it up and just haul it back out. The other side on that is there's moose hunting seasons, and you don't want to eat a moose that a week prior to that had been loaded up with narcotics to knock it out, because it's in their meat and in their blood residually. So a lot of reasons why we do what we do, and why we would ask people to just give them some space. Give them some space.
Well, let's head west.
Okay.
We're talking a little bit of deer hunting, and unfortunately some dead deer. Tell me a little bit about, I haven't heard of this before, the acronym. I can't hardly pronounce it. I'm not even going to try, but EHD, how bad is it?
Okay, so EHD is a disease that kills deer. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. It's spread by like biting gnats, and it typically, when we have hot, dry stretches of fall like we had from August through September, and that's kind of the recipe that can cause. We've had about 20 different reports, and so you're going, well, in the Red River Valley? No. The reports are coming in from southwestern North Dakota. We have thousands of people that on a Friday afternoon are driving from Fargo and Grand Forks and Devil's Lake and Valley City that are heading out to southwestern North Dakota to do some deer hunting, to archery deer hunt. And if you do find dead deer, a lot of times they'll be found along like waterways, creeks, sloughs, things like that. You can report it on the Game and Fish Department website. So number one, we're aware of it. Number two, we're tracking it, and just kind of an information reminder that, and it's similar to just about anything. Is like I had a call earlier this week on some dead ducks in South Fargo, and one dead animal, it happens, not a huge concern. But when you start to see multiples, when you bicycle by a pond and you see one dead fish or one dead duck, you go, well, it's dead.
Yeah.
But if you see a dozen of them, you go,
why
whoa.
are all the ducks and fish dead?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same mindset with these deer. So we're just giving people a little heads up that Game and Fish is aware of it. And if you see dead deer, really specifically right now in southwestern North Dakota, we ask that you go on the Game and Fish Department website and make that report.
All the information, I'm sure, is extremely helpful for you guys.
It really is. It helps us track, and don't think, well, maybe somebody already reported it. The beautiful thing about electronic systems is those locations are logged, and it's able to weed that out. So we want to get as many reports as we possibly, because that's how we can find out how extensive it is geographically and then in numbers. How far is it spread? Sure. How many dead deer do we have?
Very good. Final topic we got on the rundown today: youth pheasant hunting. Great opportunity for the kids, not the adults though.
No, and thanks for saying that. Sometimes people hear pheasant and hunt, and they get excited. And the adult pheasant season, the regular pheasant season will open up next weekend. This coming weekend is a youth pheasant hunt. That's on Saturday and Sunday, October 5th and 6th. And we have to put a number on it, 15 and younger. So residents and non-residents, so South Dakota, Minnesota, 15 and younger, they can come to North Dakota. Residents of North Dakota, the kids, can go up. They have to have an adult age of 18 or older with them, but that adult cannot say, hey, I'm going to shoot a grouse, I'm going to shoot a duck, I'm going to shoot a goose, I'm going to shoot a deer. This is about an adult without a firearm, and they're teaching that young hunter the right way, that one-on-one mentorship. It's like dad teaching son how to hit and catch and throw. The best way to do that is one-on-one.
Okay.
And you can learn in groups, but you can learn even better one-on-one. So a couple of dads, moms, whatever you have, uncles, whoever, take those kids, and it should be a good weekend for the youth pheasant hunt. That's Saturday and Sunday this weekend in North Dakota.
Well, that sounds great, but yes, so don't, hey, let me show you how to get that pheasant.
And again,
don't do that.
I know, but
don't do that.
And for some dads, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Not like you start playing catch, and you're like, okay, I'll show them my curveball.
Yeah.
You're playing football. The next thing you know, you're juking and jiving, and Dad, this isn't the time for you to throw your hip out.
Yeah.
This is the time for you just to stand back and let them do the work. Let them have some fun while pheasant hunting.
Absolutely. It's about guiding them. And hey, sounds like they get their chance coming up real soon. And I'm sure we'll talk about that next week.
That's exactly what we'll talk about next week.
Awesome. Doug, my man, thank you.
You bet. Have a good one.
You too. Always a pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in on Valley News now. And, visit the Game and Fish website. Always good information, always good updates. Doug, always staying on top of it. Thank you for tuning in. And have a great afternoon and rest of your night.